Now, correspondent Michael Voss is in Havana with more about the visit. Hello there, Michael. First of all, tell us what's special about timing of Raul Castro's visit to China.
I've lost the signal.
Hello, Michael.
Cuba is at a crossroads. The economic reform process is underway, yet the economy is struggling, the infrastructure is aging, and there's no money to invest. Now, remember, in the past, Cuba had relied heavily on the Soviet Union for all its subsidies, and now it's Venezuela that's providing subsidized oil in return for thousands of Cuban doctors working in Venezuela. But their president, Hugo Chavez, is battling cancer, and there are elections coming up later this year, and that may be partly the answer to the question of why now. Cuba can't turn to the United States because of the trade embargo. Politically, it's reluctant to turn to Western Europe for direct investment, so it is very much now looking to countries like China. Relations with China have been good and improving. Trade has tripled over a 5-year period, and one of the areas where they are now cooperating is with Cuba's biotechnology sector. Cuba has developed a sophisticated biotechnology and genetic engineering industry. Past achievements include the world's first vaccine against meningitis and a range of hepatitis vaccines. With free education in Cuba right up to university level, this National Research and Production Center in Havana has no trouble attracting scientists and engineers. Today, it's the country's third largest export sector, with China an important market. For the most part, China is importing raw materials from Latin America, like copper and nickel. But in Cuba's case, it's also importing advanced biotechnology and medical products. During one of his visits to Havana, President Hu Jintao signed a biotechnology cooperation agreement. China is supporting research in Cuba and 3 years ago donated this supercomputer to the Biotech and Genetic Engineering Center. Now, as well as buying a range of Cuban patented drugs, some of them are being manufactured in China.
We are exporting products to China. We also have been involved in 2 different joint venture companies producing together with our technologies products from Cuba, and also we are doing now a clinical trial for different products, in particular for Herbeprop.
Herbeprop P is a new drug designed to treat advanced diabetic foot ulcers, a painful condition which can result in amputations. It's already on sale across much of Latin America. This week, major clinical trials began at 8 hospitals in China prior to licensing it for sale there. Cuba is following China, is in maintaining its political structure.
Hello, Michael. All right, Michael, Raul Castro has been advocating economic reform that is largely based on China's experiences. Then you've been in China, Michael. You've been in Cuba for a long time, Michael. How, according to what you've been observing there, how have Chinese experiences and lessons of the economic reform been applied in Cuba, and how do you assess the effects of those applications?
I think that Cuba is following China's model in as much as it is maintaining the political structure while loosening the state's grip on the economy, allowing a degree of private property ownership and letting people work for themselves, small private enterprises. But these are very early days. Perhaps you could compare them to what Deng Xiaoping was doing in China in the early 1980s. And just like in China and Vietnam, the first shoots of reform came in the countryside. Raul Castro started his agricultural reforms soon after he came to power, almost 5 years ago. What we're seeing is that almost 1 million hectares of state land have been passed over to about 100,000 private farmers, many forming private cooperatives, and they are producing much more food than the state sector. Then Last year, the Communist Party Congress agreed a whole series of economic